This is the ballad of a guy named Jackalope Jim. He was the West's quickest draw, and no one could beat him. At the tender age of 10, he lost his ma and pa. So with a gifted metal arm, became a man of the law.
Jackalope Jim, ride west and say your towns are no good, stop him. Jackalope Jim, ride west and say your towns are not against him.
Hi, viewers. Welcome to another edition of Jackalope Junction Television, and this is the birth of Jackalope Junction. My name is Russ, the big guy, and with me today is the amazing Greg Schumsky. Welcome, Greg.
Hi, Russ. How are you?
Awesome. All right, Greg's the founder and visionary behind Jackalope Junction, as you know, and this is the world's first steampunk Western story park. And Greg is also the CEO of Acorn Entertainment Group Incorporated, a transmedia storytelling and themed entertainment design company. All right, Greg, what's new?
Well, a lot is new and a lot is not new.
All right, let's do some updates first.
I got a new
Got a
hat.
new hat. That's good.
You look at that.
Looking good.
I need to make a version with little gears and stuff on it. So, but otherwise, it's quite new. I got my official cowboy hat, so I'm more westernized now. So
Nice.
yeehaw.
All right.
So,
So
yeah.
what's new? What's happened in the past couple months? So we haven't recorded in a little while.
Well, we have some new people on board to help with concept art. Some fantastic people. There's a guy named Chris Grazel, who's a vehicle designer, and he's working on some of cool steampunk Western vehicles for the park. He's been kind of playing around with that a little bit. We have some other amazing artists who have been kind of jumping on board and putting a little bit of time in when they have it here and there, obviously, because that's how it's been working. With the some of the concept design work of the park, we got Michael Boscovich, who's an awesome guy. He's, I think, working on some concepts for our hotel, because we're going to have a hotel. We're going to have a small boutique hotel in the park. And we're looking at expanding, going beyond what we were going to have. Originally, we're looking at 77 acres for the park. Now we're looking at a 300-acre piece of land that's really outside of Williams, Arizona, that has a lake near it. It sits on some aquifers. It's got tons of pine trees. It actually has a cabin on the property that was when it was homesteaded in the 1800s. That still stands there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that gives us the opportunity to have our park at our still 15 to 20 acres, but eventually to build a ranch instead of just a working farm, but build a ranch outside of it that will have still working with FFA and the 4-H kids. And we'll have a little cafe there, like a farm to table cafe. But we'll also have horses, so families could go on trail rides, nature rides. So we'll have guided horse rides, and we'll have room for we'll have room for eventually an RV area that's a hosted RV experience, camping experience, and a whole other bunch of fun, cool stuff during the wintertime. People go cross country skiing if they want to. We're going to leave a good majority of the land wide open, just as a preserve. We may look at eventually doing some other stuff with some some custom home lots, like 10 of them or something silly like that. But who knows? But it gives us a lot of room to really expand and still room for our studio and everything else like that, and kind of leave a little room inside of the park then to expand inside the park and maybe poke open one of the cave walls and add a water park down the road or something like that. Who knows? So it gives us room to grow over the years, which would be exciting. And it still gives us room for our concert venue and event center, make the event center a little bit bigger than 5 acres and do a nice little outdoor concert venue and just look at growing. So
definitely room for a lot of growth.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Got a couple questions for you. I'm not that familiar with the area. So what are winters like there?
Winters can be cold.
Oh, really?
I was just, yeah, they get snow,
I
but
didn't know
that's
that.
fine. Yeah, they get snow in northern Arizona, which is fine. Sometimes it melts, sometimes it doesn't. But we plan on staying open during the wintertime. We're gonna turn the whole area into a Christmas village, both at the farm and the farm ranch, and also inside the park. We'll do a Christmas village. People can come. We'll have some attractions that are indoors, so people don't have to brave
Yeah.
Von Zimski's Sky Runners won't be running during the wintertime, but we'll have lots of Christmas lights up. We've got a big barn that does barbecue. We're going to set that up, and we'll have Santa Claus. He'll come make some visits, obviously. We'll do some winter events, and people can come decorate, make decorations and whatever they want to do, and a lot of fun family activities. And lots of hot chocolate, lots of Mexican hot chocolate from Senior Mole's taco stand, obviously. And we'll put out some fire pits that people can get them warm around and really enjoy the holiday season. So we really want to make it a huge thing, and we're going to do our best to stay open year round, except during Christmas time. But otherwise, we'll stay open year round and make a really big celebration out of the whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah. Now here in the Northeast, about 25 years ago, my company, my crew and I built a holiday drive-through light display.
Yeah.
And we did it for 4 years before I sold it. We built it up every year. Eventually, we were building our own custom light displays, and we had horse-drawn wagon rides and photos with Santa and living nativity, with live animals, live musicians, music, the snack bar, the whole bit, and it was very, very well received.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm sure that there are examples of successful holiday events, winter events at a lot of the parks around the country, but as far as I know, they're still very well attended. So I mean, that seems like that's a win right there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to be cold. I'm probably not one of them necessarily, but I do what I have to do.
Right. I'm with you on that. I don't like being really hot.
Yeah.
But cold. But you know what? With enough bundled up clothing and fire pits and heaters up and stuff like that, we can have a really good time with it and really do a fun event. Make it a place people want to come to during the winter time and make it a good family event. So,
definitely doable. The other question I have for you, so I was curious about the aquifer because well, again, I don't live in that part of the country, so some of what I perceive may not be accurate, but I know that that water is not that plentiful in California and the Southwest. So what about the northern part there? Is that aquifer going to be usable, or is that federally protected, or some other
no, it's
difficult?
so the in Williams itself has a water shortage problem, always has. But just east of Williams, they get the aquifers run under the town, but they're a good 1,000 some odd feet down by the town. So, and to drill wells is expensive. It's like $1 million to drill for a well, because you got to go through a lot of the whole area is mostly lava rock.
Okay.
If you look at northern Arizona, there's driving to northern Arizona from California, you do see a few old volcanoes, actually. And the area is very much, there's that lava rock that's got all the pitted lava rock. So this area, so you get a lot of snow towards Flagstaff, and you get a lot of water in Flagstaff and a lot of rain in Flagstaff, and you've got this one mountain, Snow Bowl, that has snow on it pretty much, I wouldn't say year round, but close to along. So all that melt off goes down, hits the rivers, goes underground, gets in the aquifers, and heads towards Williams. Well, where this piece of land is, it has two aquifers directly under it, and one is a shallow dig and one's a little bit deeper. But the beauty is those aquifers belong to the landowners. So if you've ever taken a real estate class, for those of you don't know, and I know enough because I took real estate, so I know enough to be dangerous. Your land that you own goes all the way up to the ceiling in the sky, the flight ceiling. That's where your property goes all the way. So in my boundary, from my land up to the flight ceiling is my property. And then everything down to the center of the earth, to the core of the earth, is my property. So if we buy it, then it belongs to not Acorn, but we're going to have we have a land company called Mighty Oak Land Company. Sorry, and that land will belong to the Mighty Oak Land Company. So the aquifers on that land are the property of that company, essentially. So we can tap into them, and we can have the water's plentiful. It puts out something like 500,000 gallons a day or something silly like that. So we tap in a well or two, and it'll be enough to cover the park, enough for a hotel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And even enough that if we want to put in a water park. And the beauty is any of the evaporated water will go back into the ground and work its way down through the rock and everything back into the aquifer. And we just so we want to be sustainable as much as possible.
I think that's amazing. Yeah. Well, that's a great benefit right there.
Yeah, right.
Board appointees. Did we talk about that?
Not yet. So we have 2 new board members. So if you've looked at our website or paid attention on social media, like LinkedIn, and I think we did it on Instagram. If not, well, but we've been consulting with a company called Adventure Lab. Actually, they started consulting with us for us. Klaus Paulson and Ekaterina Capatina and their company. So Adventure Lab is really a kind of a well-known theme consultancy, storytelling consultancy back in Denmark. And we met them originally through an architect up in the Bay Area, up in the Northern California area called Michael Boscovich. So Klaus got involved with us, and they started consulting with us. And I asked them if they wanted to be. So we're looking for people for the board of directors. And I'm looking for heavy hitters, obviously, for our board, because I want people to know how serious we are. I'm not, Acorn Entertainment is not a little fly by night, gee, I really want to have a theme park company kind of a company. No, we are, from the beginning, my thought was, I just want to have a little tiny amusement park that's going to be this Western amusement park and call it a day when we're looking at Marshall Scotty's. But it occurred to me, or it came to me, that we needed to be bigger than that. We had talks with CRBT, commercial real estate, the people that they lease out malls and stuff like that. We had talks with them about putting versions of Jackalope Junction into dead malls. Okay, that was kind of a huge thing. I had always wanted to do a television series. I don't know what it was going to be about originally, and then eventually children's books, and that kind of formed into what Jackalope Junction is about, and the mission of Jackalope Junction, to really good, wholesome entertainment out to and with a bit of education to it, to families. I mean, I take this part very seriously, and with a little bit of uneasiness, not in a bad way, but when I've had people say to me numerous times, oh, you're a modern day Walt Disney, because I came up with the characters, came up with the idea for Jackalope Junction, and all the original IP, and the plans are to do a TV show and books and other forms of entertainment, and maybe movies. Who knows?
Let me just jump in and interrupt you, because viewers are going to think our stomachs are growling.
No, that's my dog. He's a.
Do you want to introduce your dog real quick?
Yeah, Oliver. Come here. And he's all shy. It's a boxer. He's a year and a half.
What's his name?
Oliver. So those of you who know, here, come here. Come on up. You want to come up? Come on. Come here. Come here. Yeah, you're being silly now. For those of you who know boxers, they're very vocal, and I think we're going to have a character, Doc Boxer. He'll be the doctor of Jackalope Junction. He'll be a boxer because
Gonna have to.
they're very people-oriented dogs, and they're when they get older, they have a very good bedside manner. So maybe he'll become the town's doctor. Who knows?
Yeah.
So he's our third boxer that we've had. They're just beautiful, crazy, nutty dogs.
Wants to be on TV, but he won't. But he's too shy.
Okay,
There he is.
there you go. That's Oliver right there. There you go. Say hi, Oliver.
Oh, now he wants to. Now he's really up there.
Yeah, now he's yes. Thank you. I love you too. Crazy. Walt Disney is a hero of mine and has been for a long time, and I'm I don't know, stupefied when people say I'm a modern day Walt, because I don't think I am. But we're with Jackalope Junction, we're changing the way theme parks are designed and created and thought of, because we're not doing a park with stuff slapped on it and calling it a theme park. We're not doing a park that has this land and this land and this land and this land, and there's all these themes going on. But we are creating a park based on one theme, and so it's the story park concept. That it's funny. I was talking to Michael Boscovich, and everything in it has what we have a new acronym called LOW for level of whimsy. So it's changing the way people think about theme parks, the same way that Disneyland changed the whole amusement park industry, right? So that's the first thing.
It changed it from basically from more of a, I don't know, sleazy might be the wrong word, but a sleazy, the negative carny vibe to family friendly, family oriented park. Yeah.
And theme parks, there's some really great theme parks, but a lot of them become the same thing. It's a sleazy, dirty, it's just disgusting. I mean, I not to pick on anyone, but I had a chance. I had a chance to visit a certain one in Virginia a few years back, and I was really disappointed. It wasn't that clean.
Really?
Yeah, the employees weren't customer focused or guest focused. It was an amusement park, really. It was a coaster park, and had no qualms. And the shame is that the entrance to the place had been really beautifully done at one time, and was designed by a really well-known park person, I think, who worked in Imagineering at one time. And it was, and unfortunately, all the shops on that main drag going in were all now commercial sponsored. So you had a Panda Express, you had a Kentucky Fried Chicken, you had an Orange Juliet. There's no, the buildings were themed to a certain point, but there was no story being told when you walked in. It was kind of the rides were great. Some of the rides were really great, but otherwise it was just kind of thrown together. And that's what happens a lot with theme parks these days. They look at what ride can we put in to get more people to come to our park, and how much money can we make? That's what really comes out. Now, making money is not a bad thing, obviously, because you got to be able to put so much back into maintenance and paying your employees and so on and so forth. But it was disappointing, to say the least. There was no thought.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, and so many of the other people I've had on my podcast, and then people that you and I have talked to individually and jointly, there's definitely a movement towards more integrated storytelling. There's definitely a movement where the customer, the consumer, the attendee, our visitor, our extended family who are going to be coming to our park, they're looking for more than that. They really are. They're wanting more, and they're wanting, like you mentioned, sustainability. They're looking for to work with people who care. They don't want to spend their money places where they don't respect the owners or the the culture, if you will.
Right. So we're changing that. And then we
Yeah.
have plans for big things. Like I said, transmedia. So television, maybe movies, maybe and definitely books. Transmedia in this case is that all of our shows, what happens in the park happens in the shows and vice versa. So if there's something that happens in the shows, you can bet your bottom dollar that we're going to cover that story in the park. And every day or the story in the park changes. So it's a story park. So just like life moves on, life will happen and occur. Like when you step into Jackalope Junction, you are stepping back in time into a real town that we have discovered by accident, more or less, that we are now allowing people to come into and enjoy a bit of old-fashioned wholesome fun. So and the plan is, like I said, we really want to someday be bigger than Disney, and that's going to happen.
Well, the last time that we talked about Senior Mole as the mine manager there at Muddy Oak Springs, and the town fathers pushing for production, the robots were introduced, the mine collapse, the people that got trapped, exposing the time crystals, and then finally having the mine shut down, the town overcome by sadness and sort of in decay. And then 20 years later, Jackalope Jim shows up as a young man, and the town is rebuilt as Jackalope Junction. So I was thinking that maybe we could continue this story of Jackalope Junction if you wanted to. Maybe talk about a little more about the mine collapse, and then the missing people, and then how that ties in with, maybe some of the other characters' relationship to the missing people or the spirits, or something like that. So
yeah. So it's funny because when I created characters for this originally, they were just filler. I thought it'd be fun with the Gurdys, who own the general store, the Gurdy's general store. When I had come up with them, I thought it'd be kind of a fun thing when you go on the train around the town, and you go on the train behind the buildings here, this one side of Main Street, you'd see different fun little animatronic scenes. And one of them was going to be Ma and Pa Gurdy on their back porch of the shop. And Ma's whittling because she owns the toy store. And you'll find in the toy store, there's going to be a lot of cool hand-carved wooden toys. Kids take home, because we really want to instill that toys don't have to be electronic and so on and so forth. They can be fun collectibles even that kids will cherish and play with in 20 years.
Use their imaginations.
Exactly. So we had her on the porch whittling a new toy, and Pa Gurdy is playing his fiddle, and the rhyme was Ma likes to whittle while Pa plays the fiddle. And that was pretty much it. So Pa is playing the fiddle, but he's horrible. It's a and she's busily shaving, and there's all these shavings around his feet, and he's half covered in shavings because she's trying to shut him up. So that was the joke. And I thought, that's really cute. That's fun. And then it hit me one day, so many months ago, there's a story to them beyond that. And what is the story? And the story is when Mighty Oaks, so they were original people of Mighty Oak Springs, and their two children, a boy and a girl, loved to just go adventure and play, and they'd be often found the mine caves on adventures, searching for stuff, exploring. Anyway, short story long is that when there's this huge cave in, because they decide to go forward in the caves, the mining crew goes forward in the caves to look for new pockets of these gems, and they're being forced to work faster than they normally would, and not take the time to research. and there's this cave, and well, we lose 11 miners. So there's a group of miners, 11 of them get trapped, including the 2 children. So 13. So we have the 13 is, and the whole idea behind that came about. We were talking about a Halloween. What do we do for Halloween? So that kind of ties in the whole Halloween thing. We're going to do something cool, which I can't really talk about. However, so their children are missing. Mole and the other miners and a whole team going to look for them. They can't find the 11 miners and the 2 children. No matter how much they search, they can't find them. There's no pockets. There's nothing they're trapped in. They're just gone. They're missing. They can't find their bodies. So the mines get shut down. The town goes bust. Everybody leaves, except for several of our key main characters. Mole stays behind because he feels responsible. Ma and Pa Gurdy stay behind because they've lost their children, hoping they'll come back someday. And that touches a lot of people. There's a lot of parents that deal with the loss of their children. And there's a lot of parents that haven't dealt with the loss of their children, but it's on the minds of a lot of parents and myself. And before, when I would talk about this, I had a hard time even discussing this subject because I have a son and a daughter. But I had a hard time discussing this subject because it hit me as well. And interestingly enough, I was talking to a gentleman a few weeks ago, and I posted a little thing about him on, I think, LinkedIn and Instagram. And I started talking to him about it, and he started to cry. Jackalope Junction is fun, yes, and there's gonna be a lot of cool things about it, but we want to be able to have an effect on people and then help them through it. How do you deal with the loss of your children? How do you deal with the loss of a loved one? How do you deal with this and this and these? How do you deal with tragedy in general?
How do you deal with loss, in general, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so we want people to be able to deal with loss and help them through it to make them stronger, right? So what happens is that Ma and Pa Gurdy, she would make these toys for her kids, and she had a little toy store, and she'd make toys for her own children. Well, now she continues to make these toys because she's hoping her kids will come back someday. But it brings her joy to see other children buying these toys, having these toys, and playing with them. Pa Gurdy, on the other hand, had played happy music on his fiddle, on his violin, happy, joyful, danced to it. But after the loss of his children, he becomes a really a big sourpuss and not a nice guy. He was the kindest guy you can know, one of the kindest men you can know, even though they're billy goats, but one of the kindest people you can know. And the loss of his children changed him, and now this is the part, and he can't get over it. He can't move on. So he plays his fiddle, but it's sad music he plays on his fiddle all the time. And it's out of tune at times, and it's not happy music. And he becomes just bitter. And it's sad because I know people like that. Every character in this story in the town are based on people I've known, as I had mentioned in a previous thing, but they're also based on what would happen to me if I lost my children. What would that turn me into? How would I react to that? Then we have, and that's a hard one. Then we have Paula Pig. Originally, Paula Pig's was going to be just a little store at the end of the street where the food places are, and it's going to be called Paula Pig's Picnic Basket. And it was a quick serve counter for fried chicken, and we give, you can rent a blanket, or you could just get a free blanket, and you go on this big lawn area, listen to music, and have a picnic with your family. End of story. And then when we had a way to look at doing a little more room, it's like, well, the story of Paula Pig came to me. I don't want to say it revealed itself to me, but that's kind of how things happen. They just pop in my mind, and it's like I have someone telling me. So Paula Pig and her husband actually have a little cottage out just outside of town, and they used to have these big gatherings, family gatherings, but they'd have big gatherings for the town, and they had a little stage out up next to their cottage, and they'd have a live band come play, and they have the string of market lights and kind of a fire pit going, but she would cook for the whole town. She loves to cook, and her fried chicken is one of the famous things she would have. So her and her husband love to entertain. Well, her husband happens to be a miner. That's his job. He's one of the miners. And he becomes one of the miners that gets lost, that gets trapped in the mine caves. So she loses him. Now, she has a choice of either shutting down everything and I'm done. And that's what happens for 20 years. You know, nobody does anything. And she tries to hold herself together. Well, when Jackalope Jim shows up and breathes new life into the town, she reopens up her little thing and her stage, and everybody cleans it up, and they make it a gathering place to celebrate life and to celebrate friendship and to support each other and to love each other. And she starts making her chicken again. And there you have it. But she does that not so much to heal. Well, it does. It helps her to heal, but it also honors her husband as well, because she loved him so much. And she could either say, I'm done with life, I'm shutting down, and I'm going to turn my back on the world, or I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, and it's honoring my husband. This is my husband, and I did. This is her thought, and she does that. So that's Paula Pig. So we've got Paula Pig has a story now. The Gurdys have a story. Shotgun Sally is another one, and she's younger, and the love of her life. She's 15 years old, and she's engaged to be married to this one young man who's just the love of her life, and he's one of the miners that gets trapped and lost. And she goes from this girl who is wears the wedding dress. She wears dresses. She's not really a tomboy type, but she stays behind him. She becomes tougher, and she becomes kind of a tomboy, but she picks up a shotgun, and she wears a wedding dress she was supposed to wear along with some other, and her boots and stuff and whatnot. And she becomes not cold to everyone, but she becomes a very quiet, just not trusting of anybody after this happens. And so she's dealing with loss in her way. So we have all these different characters that have been created, including Jackalope Jim, who we went into the story of him. Yeah. We have all these different characters who touch on what happens in life and how do you react to it, and how are you going to use that as a tool. So we want to give people tools through this as well. Yes, it's family entertainment. You don't have to know the stories to come to the place and have a great time. However, once you get into the stories, you're going to go, wow, this really helps me. Or I know someone that this can help. And we really, we don't want to be this form of entertainment that's just on the surface and skating along the surface. We really want to dive deep into emotions and
Oliver's upstaging again.
Yeah, I know, Oliver. But that's what we want to do. We really want to give people stories that span generations, right?
I think it's really going to be timely too, because we're coming out, well, hopefully coming out of this pandemic. And I mean, this is a global pandemic. This is something that doesn't happen even every generation. There's a lot of people who are suffering from it in different ways. A lot of instances of the negative effects from it regarding mental health. And so, I mean, people aren't going to be coming to the park and being sad and and that sort of thing, but there's definitely going to be a representation and a connection with real life and people's real problems and positive solutions, right? So I think that's one of the big things that you're talking about.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
definitely, it seems like there's room for some mental health professionals to be consultants or something here.
Well,
with our storytelling,
It's funny you mentioned that. We actually have a couple consultants working with us.
Yeah.
One is a child psychologist that we have working with us, and he came and said, "Look, I love what you're doing. I'm a child psychologist. I want to be part of this." And we've had some other people come along that are mental health professionals and say, "This is the greatest thing ever." How did you come with the idea of doing? How'd you come up with the idea of doing a steampunk Western thing that touches people's hearts?
Yes.
And to me, it's about how do you create a great experience?
Any final thoughts here as we?
I think I'm good. I got to talk about what I get to love talking about. I'm excited.
Okay.
We've got some people interested. I mean, we're still looking for investors, obviously. We
Yeah.
really want to provide an alternative form of entertainment to families. And now's the time. So it's big things happening, and we'll catch up on the next episode of what's going on once I know some more solid things. And I'll try and keep Oliver a little more quiet next time.
Or we have to get him a hat and get the light on him. So, all right, this is Russ the Big Guy.
A little sidekick.
Yeah. Will the saddle fit him?
Yeah. A saddle. Yeah. Right.
All right. Hey, thanks, Greg. It was great catching up with you. Viewers, stay tuned for the next exciting adventure. I don't know, what will it be? It'll be episode 5, I guess, the next one. All right.
Okay.
And we're out.
On a fateful day out west, he found an old ghost town. He saw a diamond in the rough, and Jim, he settled down. And with a bit of elbow grease, he turned it right around. He dubbed it Jackalope Junction, a bright and shiny town.
Oh,